Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is an exciting day for me because I get to work on my own car again. And what I'm gonna do is install this air ride system components. At least get all this stuff mounted and wired in. So when I go to install the actual air ride shocks, everything is complete. But starting out with air ride, we're going to be fitting the tank, 2 pumps, and the controller in the trunk. There's a factory panel, because this battery is where the fuel tank used to be. So I want to hide everything behind the factory panel, just make it look stock in here, just like the rest of the car. I'm gonna have the air tank go above here, have the 2 compressors, and these are mounts for the original fuel tank. So they're 2 tabs with studs sticking out, and I think that's a great basis to build a nice beefy bracket. So what I'm envisioning is having 2 90-degree plates mount to each side, and then between the 2 having 1 thick piece of tubing running across, and off of that tubing I could make some circular brackets to flat that come off to mount the 2 compressors, the air tank to it, and the controller in the front. So I'm gonna go ahead, climb in this trunk once again, get some light in here, maybe take a piece of tube laid across and space it up how high I want it off of the tank, and then I could be able to start designing my brackets on either side.
Hopping in the trunk again,
And I've got all of my bracketry connected to my air compressors, my controller, and my tank that sits back there. You can see how this one is going to sit onto the bar and be welded around this area. So now that I have all of these in place, what I can do is hold them in place and bring over the MIG welder and tack the brackets exactly where they're going to be. Once I tack every single bracket in this thing in a couple spots, then I could pull the whole assembly out, easy peasy, off of our little brackets here, and then I could bring it to the bench and TIG weld everything nice and pretty. So this system works pretty well. It's gonna place all the brackets exactly how they need to be without using a lot of extra material. I just have one on each side of the air compressor, same with the controller. But this bar is nice and thick and strong, and that's gonna hold all this weight that's gonna be hanging on it. So let's go ahead, get the welder over here, start the whole things in position, give a little tacks, and then we'll be ready to rip and roll on this thing. as you can see, I got all my components mounted to my tubular bracket with our welded standoffs on it. I also pre-plumbed it before I set it in as much as possible. So I put in all the fittings, and then I ran a line from our filter to the inlet of the airlift controller. Once it was in here, I ran the exhaust, and then out of the airlift bottom back there, I ran a tube down that goes underneath the car to a little valve there, and then that's going to be the water drain for the air tank. And all this wiring was here. Me and Chris ran it when we did the battery, so that was just hanging out in the trunk. I kind of sorted and organized, mounted the relays for each air compressor on the sides of each air compressor. That way they're easy to identify, and then hooked up the grounds and major positives between the relays. Unfortunately, all this cool work is going to be hidden, but that's going to be part of the charm of the car, because I'm going to keep the trunk as is, keep it factory, be able to put some. So system's all hooked up all the way up to the front. The cables already ran to the center console to plug the controller into. So I'm pretty sure, minus the actual bags themselves and running 4 lines to them, everything is hooked up. It looks pretty good. So the air ride system I got was a bolt-on kit. These are the 2 bottom plates that mount onto the control arms in place of the bottom spring perch. But as you can see, they both have the letter L, which means they are both for the driver's side instead of one for the driver, one for the passenger. So I'm going to have to flip this, mark it here, and make one of these plates a mirror image of the other, so that way it will actually work. Because you can't just flip them upside down. The pattern's not symmetrical, and this cutout is also to one side. Also, the hardware they gave is too long, so we're going to have to cut that down as well. It bottoms out before these plates actually get mounted. All right, we got the front air shocks installed, and we got the car back at the shop. And we got our 2 compressors and our controller and our tank mounted over the second half of our battery in here, which will eventually be covered up with our factory panel. So we're gonna go ahead and test out this air ride system, see how low we could go. Benz, rolling around, windows up, AC on, air ride system, feels amazing. You know, the old suspension I had adjustable coilovers, which got a really cool stance on it, but air ride is always better. One, you can park lower, but also just the ride in this thing is way smoother now. Coilovers I had were decent. They weren't top of the line, they weren't bottom of the line, but nothing beats air ride. And I think, you know, in this kind of car, I think it really does justice to the smooth ride that, you know, Mercedes intended, having a luxury vehicle. I'm super excited about how everything turned out. Yeah, it took a lot of time and effort, but that's what car projects are, right? They always take a lot of time, a lot of money for 5 minutes of satisfaction after it's all done. Air ride, I can park it lower, you can drive higher, so I can go over speed bumps without worrying, and the ride is just silky smooth now. It's a night and day difference driving on air, being able to fine tune, you know, all your air pressures in the bag and everything. And I think really, you know, the Mercedes luxury vehicle, you know, I'm not trying to do crazy cornering on the track. This is a high horsepower cruiser. I'm super happy with how everything came out. It was a lot of work, but I think in the end, it's worth it for this driving experience. That is a wrap for all the upgrades to the Tesla swap Mercedes for now. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below so we can see those. Now I'm gonna get back in the shop because we got a lot of other builds going on, like our Godzilla swap Continental, twin turbo LS Continental, the LS swap Mercedes in the corner, and our new build, a 57 LS swap GMC. So stick around, like and subscribe, and you'll get to see it all. See you later.